Toulon to Gonzalez. Gonzalez back to Toulon. Toulon drives to the hoop. He scores. And one. This is Hoops Upside Your Head, the basketball podcast that presses full court and makes threes the old-fashioned way. And now, the hosts of Hoops Upside Your Head, Coach B and E.
Hello, hoopers, ballers, shot callers. Welcome again to Hoops Upside Your Head. This is E with Coach B, and we're happy to bring you another episode of Hoops Upside Your Head. Coach, how you feeling this week?
I'm feeling excited, getting ready for the season. Want to see what's coming up. I can't wait to get it on. I can't wait to see what's happening in the league.
I tell you, this, we starting to see some preseason stuff. Did you catch anything this week?
Not yet. It's still too early for me.
Hey, they had the Lakers and Golden State prime time on Saturday, so I couldn't miss that one. My boy is playing. LeBron haters. I got to tell you that Anthony Davis looks like a straight beast playing in that gold and purple, man.
He is a beast. As a Knicks fan, I'm jealous.
I didn't realize. I mean, clearly he's been in the league a while now, but his shoulders, his upper body has filled out to man-size proportions, man. So it's a good time. No better time to be an NBA fan, as we talk about all the time here on Hoops Upside Your Head. Listen, this week's show, we're as excited as we've been for the first couple. This week's show, we're going to talk about coaching and coaches. There's all sorts of data and analytics on the players, but we want to talk about coach. And we got Coach B here to really help us walk through some analytics and really the essence of what a coach should be doing, needs to be doing, and a lot of what they are doing that they shouldn't be doing. Back in the corporate days, we used to talk about, what do you want to start? What do you want to stop? What do you want to keep doing? There's all sorts of, but that's the thought process that these coaches have to keep going through to make sure they're doing their jobs well. So we're going to talk coaching. Coach B is going to give us some more coach knowledge from his corner. Obviously, I'm going to do my rap, and I'm just going to talk a little bit more about coaching from my end, from a leadership perspective. And we'll this week talk about the Western Conference, our top 8, our division winners. And before the show is over, we will reveal our conference semifinalists, finalists, and ultimately who we each see winning the 2020 NBA championship. This is Hoops Upside Your Head, folks. Wake up. It's ball season, people. It's ball season, man. I couldn't be more excited. I know everybody here in the South, they get excited about football, but you know what? I like hoops upside my head.
Yes, sir.
So, Coach, let's talk about coaching. Give me your take on what you see, I guess, pro-con in the NBA landscape, but then just kind of your general take on coaching.
Before I get into it,
yes, sir.
Recognize, unfortunately, our listeners can't see. I got my coach shirt on, as coach right across the front, but I'm still learning my craft. So to get right into it with the coaching in the NBA, we talked about this, you and I, offline, and they have all this analytics for players, but the only thing they have for coaches right now is win-loss percentage and the jewelry, correct? What else out there?
That's not all they talk about is who's got championships.
And you and I have discussed, there's a handful of NBA coaches right now with rings?
5, I believe. If we do the math, Pop's obviously got rings. Spoelstra's got a ring. Doc Rivers has a ring. Carlisle has a ring. And Nurse.
And Kerr.
So 6. So 6. You got one with a ring, but he's an assistant now, Ty Lue. But yeah, there's not a lot of championship depth in the coaching ranks. That's a fifth. That's 20%. All right? 20% of the league, coaches have rings.
And right now, I mean, from an analytics perspective, how you break down a coach, you go, I went online, try to do a little bit of research, see what's out there. Not a lot, to be honest with you. So I almost try to come up with my own analytics for it. from a coach is the flow of the game. How are they bringing in their subs? Are they making multiple subs where they're bringing in 2 or 3 at a time? And then what their combinations on the floor are. Are they working? Are they countering? Is the other coach even countering their subs? So I see that, I'm watching that, and I start wondering, well, how effective was that sub? How can we measure the effectiveness of the substitution and the substitution pattern? And I was wondering, and I cannot do the algorithm of how, because you could do a plus and minus of when a player is on the court.
Sure.
Why can't they do a plus and minus when a sub is made while that substitute is on the court, and then another plus and minus when they make a second substitute? I'm just trying to, this is me and you talking.
Right. Using the simple math, the plus minus math to say when you're on the court, it's a plus scenario. When you're on the court, it's a minus scenario, right? I mean, that's essentially what they've gotten it to, but it doesn't necessarily speak to the individual player's contribution because they're on the court with 4 other
players.
And that number is derived from all 5, not from just that player. And so it doesn't necessarily say, oh, he was balling out or he wasn't, right? And that's the next level of depth that we should be seeing from these analysts, excuse me.
Yes, and I think that's one metric and I start calling them coach metrics now.
Nice.
Is the sub pattern, how effective is it? Let's do a plus minus. If you can do a plus minus for an individual player, like you're saying, who's in there with 4 other guys, I mean, that's very dependent. It's really, to me, I've always found it hard that you can assign a plus minus to an individual player because they're on the court and they're not by themselves. They're with 4 other dudes.
Right.
So you got to measure it in a combination. I think it's more effective when you do it with groupings, which is leading me into kind of like my next metric.
Okay.
So I did go on there and I found a website that has the NBA calls advanced analytics.
Okay.
So the first one I find is which teams have the most 5-player lineups during games for the season.
Say that again. Which team has the most
5-player lineups? So the same 5 players available to the
court. Got you. Regular rotation.
The most for the season.
Right.
I first started to see who had the most consistent starting 5 for the most games.
Okay.
But I didn't find no advanced analytics on that. So I said, but I did find lineups, 5-player lineups, which teams had the most 5-player lineups available for this regular season. You would be very surprised. I was like, wow. Orlando was number 1. They had 5 players, the same 5 players on the court during the game at one point in time, 66 games.
Okay.
DJ Augustin, Vucevic, Fournier, Gordon, and Isaac.
Okay.
66. You know who was second? The Jazz with 60.
Wow.
And so if you look at those two.
Both playoff teams. That's the only thing they have in common that I can tell is they're both playoff teams.
Yes. Now, the other thing, so I'm looking at it and I'm trying to say, okay, what does that tell me? I'm trying to correlate the wins with the availability of a consistent lineup. Right?
Right.
So effectiveness of coaching, I have a consistent lineup, and I translate that to wins. That should be easy.
Okay.
Because if you look, the Magic with Clifford had 42 wins with that consistent combination of players.
Right.
That's less than 1. Okay? That's a 0.64 correlation.
Got you.
All right? Now, those starting 5, that 5-player combination is above average at best. I mean, I just threw out the names. I don't know if you agree or disagree.
Slightly.
I think
playoff team, so they have to be slightly above average.
Right. So from my perspective, if I look at that and I compare it, so let's go now to Sean Atkinson, right?
Okay.
He had the same combination of 5 players available 18 games this last season.
What do you mean? Well, you talking about Brooklyn Kenny Atkinson?
Yes.
Okay.
Kenny Atkinson, 18 players. 18 games he was
the
able
same
to put
5. He had it.
And that was Carroll, Dinwiddie, Harris, Russell, and Allen.
All right. So what does that suggest about that analytic? That we can't make a correlation because they made the playoffs too. So they're the bottom end of usage.
And he won 42 games.
Right.
The correlation I make, and I can conclude,
Mm-hmm.
is that Atkinson did a better job coaching because he had to shuffle more players in and out, integrate them into the lineup, get them to buy into his system,
Mm-hmm.
and effectively translate that into wins. So I put the question out. In my mind, I know my answer. I think if you have a consistent group of players available to you
Mm-hmm.
on a day in, day out basis, I think that's easier to translate into wins.
If you got the consistent five.
Yes.
Yeah, I think day in, day out. I mean, obviously just the pure, the hoops piece of it. You know, the five of them obviously get to learn each other more and more every day, every practice, right? That speaks to, you know, the team gelling versus, you know, lineups changing and, you know, folks with different skill sets bring different things at different times. The interesting thing about your analysis is that today, all three would be considered high-end NBA coaches, right? Steve Clifford is considered a defensive kind of guru. I mean, he took a dog Magic squad and he's dragged them into the playoffs, and there's no real all-star on that team. I think Gordon may have made a team, but he's not really an all-star. But
we qualify that with some metrics. He had a consistent lineup for 66 games.
Yeah.
Compared to others who did not have that luxury. So
right. But not everybody had that challenge. You made the point. Atkinson didn't have that luxury, and yet he's still in the playoffs also. So does that speak to his ability to utilize his bench better? Or does it speak to his bench talent just being better?
Yeah, and also just the communication with his team to buy into their system, to plug in pieces on the fly. I think it speaks volumes. And one step back, I'll name you the three highest correlated wins to 5-player lineups available.
Okay.
Number one was Eric Spoelstra, 39 wins with 16 games of the same 5-player lineup.
Wow.
Atkinson was second, 42 wins, 18 games.
Okay.
Third was, and this was a shocker to me because, to be honest with you, I did not think highly of his coaching skills until I saw this.
Was it Coach Fizdale?
No, it was Brown from the Sixers.
Really?
Yes. He had 24 games with a 5-player lineup, the same 5-player lineup, and he got 51 wins. And you want to know what's even more surprising? That 5-player lineup did not include Joel Embiid. It was Chandler, Butler, Muscala, Simmons, and Shamet.
Really? That was an early season. That was part of the early season, right? Because Shamet got traded at some point. So
right, and they turned over that roster, and he still won 51 games.
Yeah, but you know what? I don't know that I assign so much to Brett Brown as I do. He had more talent.
Yes,
his team had more starting talent going into the game. The Sixers had more talent, so I would want to see more metrics that help me understand: did he optimize his talent? Right? Is Brett Brown getting all that he can out of this superior talented team versus a Steve Clifford who seems to be dragging every bit of, you know, ability out of his Orlando Magic team? You know what? If you ask me pick a coach, I'm picking Clifford over Brett Brown. Personally.
This is what I got you. I understand. But this is why we are coming up with some kind of coach metrics to start the conversation.
Yeah.
So we have a point of analysis and a point of reference where we can try and balance out some kind of baseline to start from. Correct?
Yeah. Oh, no question.
So even if you now look at Mark Malone out in Denver, right? Mm-hmm. He had the same lineup, five-player lineup for 28 games. He got 54 wins out of them.
Right.
The five names are Plumlee, Lyles, Beasley, Hernan Gomez, and Morris. None of them are starters, and none of them were Jokic.
Interesting.
And its correlation is almost at 2 wins.
Again, but these were not starting lineups. These were 5 people on the court at the same time the most. Yes. That's really the best way to say it.
Yes.
At the same time the most.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's a consistent group of players that you have available during a whole season.
Right.
See, and the reason to me this resonates to a certain degree is as a coach at the amateur level, I got guys coming in and out all the time, and I have to plug and play players into a system, then get a system around different groups of players. to try and get the most effectiveness that translates into a win.
So you're saying you're having to run multiple systems
based on
because of the varied talent that you have?
Yes. And I mean, it could change from one day to the next. Where
so you can have a pressing team in the game, but then change personnel and have to go to a slow down, walk it up team.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Because I don't have the kid on the front of my diamond who's 6 feet with a 6'6" wingspan.
Right.
I got to put him on the bench.
Right. You can't say, here's the strategy I want to play. I want to be a press, full court, run the ball, score in a hurry, defend. But then you look at your talent and go, yeah, I could do that for about a third of the game with these five, but I can't do anything else with the other 2/3 of the game.
Yep.
That's about the situation. Well, that puts more pressure on your skill set for sure.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do to get yourself comfortable with that scenario, that dynamic you're dealing with?
It's a lot of talking and a lot of communication and explaining why you want to do things a certain way. So if I'm telling a kid, you have to take away the middle, I have to tell them why we're taking away the middle on the press. Most presses I have to break it down for them. Look, most presses are broken from the middle. Once you get it to the middle, the person can now see the full court. If you keep them on half the court, you're giving them only half the options. Any cross-court passes, we can recover and get that back.
And we use sidelines as defenders.
As an extra defender. And where I remember coming up, I wasn't getting that explanation from my coaches. It was, this is what you do because I said that's what you do.
But you know what? Because we grew up in a world where there was less why. There was less rationale provided to us when we were growing up. It's because I said so. It was the world we lived in. And honestly, based on that just being the culture, we operated fine with that, right? You said, okay, I trust you that you're right, and I'm going to go do it. Now, they weren't always right, but we seem to get stuff done in a world that was a bit more, I call it prescriptive. But this is not today's world. They want to know more whys. They want explanations and rationale, and they want to have opinions about what you might be trying to run, Coach. I would assume that's how the young people are.
No, you're right. And to be honest with you, that's what I think these professional coaches also deal with.
Yeah.
I think the players today, and we touched on it a little bit in the prior episodes when we talked about LeBron, their IQ as far as strategy and things of that nature, they have more input into that.
Sure.
Than teams in the past, than players in the past.
Yeah, I don't think players in the past had any input.
Nah.
Large. It was a dictatorship from a coaching standpoint. Larry Brown really wasn't interested in Allen Iverson's opinion.
No.
What plays he was running, you know? He just wanted Allen to show up for practice. And that was that old school relationship. Don't exist anymore. The money's too big.
Yes.
Coaching is tenuous.
Yes.
Right? Where the talent is always the talent. And they realize, you know what? We're in charge of this thing.
Yep.
So
you talked about plays, and this is my last metric.
Uh-huh.
I put my crack research squad on it last night.
Not a research squad on crack. This was your crack research squad.
Well, the research squad was me, and I was trying to do this after spending 12 hours in a gym. So it felt like I was kind of out there. But you talked about plays and the effectiveness of plays, and we're not given that access, to that whiteboard when the coach has got that last minute play and he draws it up and then translates that from the whiteboard onto the court, and is it executed? Because that would be a real good measurement of a coach's effectiveness.
Absolutely. Late game situation. There are a ton of things that, I expect more analysis on. And because they talk about it, late game situations, they just haven't applied the math. They'll talk about LeBron is 2 for 12.
Right.
Late game situations, under 2 minutes, with a headband on. And they can't tell me how effective his coaches' plays were, right? And part of that is, do the players execute the plays? Well, how good was the play?
Well, that's what I wanted to tell you.
Talk about it.
I've been in late game situations where I've drawn up a play.
Okay.
Put it on the whiteboard. Try to have them translate it to me on the court.
Mm-hmm.
They've run it to perfection, and it just didn't work. there's been other times when I drew it up and a kid would improvise in the middle of it, and we win the game.
Okay.
And there's times when I drew it up and they run it perfect, knock down 3, we walk off the court with a 1-point win.
So 3 different scenarios. Drew it up perfect, it didn't work. Drew it up perfect, it worked. Drew it up, they improvised, did something else, and it worked.
Right. And then the 4th one is they improvised
and it didn't work. Right.
Exactly. So, I mean, those are the 4 that's my life situation translating into what I see the NBA coaches having to deal with.
Gotcha.
It's very hard because we're not in that huddle. We're not seeing that whiteboard. However, the one thing I will propose to you is because they do this all the time in baseball. You know, what's their record after the 7th inning?
Right.
In basketball, what's the record of that team when they're winning by 5 points with 2 minutes left? And what's their record when they're losing by 5 points? I mean, we could pick an arbitrary number, 4 points, 6 points, whatever it is you want to, or you could even say, break it down like by point differential, what their records are winning and what their records are losing.
When losing. Okay.
And that to me would be a big part because now we go to the eye test. Brooklyn Nets, not 2018, 2019. I'm talking 2017, 2018.
Okay.
Their record when the differential was less than 4 points was their record. They were in so many close games. And they had, and their record was not good. You come back to last year, 2017, 2018 season.
Right. 2 years ago.
Right, with the Nets. And then you look at them last year, they were winning those close games. And I translated that to be a growth in Atkinson's coaching ability.
Which would also be part of the, call it advanced analytics, but your year-to-year performance, right? You don't have a baseline, right? So all you're doing is just taking kind of numbers out of air in the moment versus going, here's what it looked like last year or the 2 years prior, right? And so we can have some trending to say Kenny Atkinson has gone from here to here to here based on his team's performance, right? We can see, you can see again the eye test and the ear test and know Kenny Atkinson can coach, right? But how do we get all of those measures consistently so we can say Joe Schmo can't coach, right? Because because we say Joe Schmo can't play. We absolutely use the data to say he can't play or he can play. We need to be able to do the same thing from a coaching standpoint. And none of the big heads that I've listened to and engaged with seem to care or really dig in to that. Coaching is still kind of this hands-off, out of space thing versus do your work, be good at your craft, be innovative, be strategic, and develop your talent. It's no different than any other job that you're leading in, B, right? Yeah.
It's and you say it when these announcers say, hey, that's a great coach. I'm sitting there going, what's that based on?
Right.
Like they say that about Pop all the time.
That's true.
Now let's go back to that metric with the wins to player combinations, right? He had 45 games with 5 players, with that 5-player lineup, the same 5-player lineup. He won 48 times.
Okay.
That's almost a 1-to-1 correlation. But he had 30-plus games with 5-player lineup available to him 9 times during the season. His lineup was consistent. He always had players available to him consistently. That has an impact on your coaching ability. When you don't have to constantly resell what you're doing, bring in a player and assimilate them into your lineup, into what you're trying to do, not only during the season, but for a game, then the playoffs, a 7-game series. A guy goes down hurt, you have to now bring in somebody new. And then that changes your whole rotation.
Yeah, that's been his forte because because it's such a system-driven team.
Yep.
The consistency of players in that system empowers the system, right?
Yep.
We've been doing this for 3 years. I mean, you saw that San Antonio team that beat Miami that second time after they lost that first year, the Ray Allen shot, right? Yes. And they beat him and the Heat beat him in 7. That Spurs team came back that next year and they were damn near unstoppable, right? they were the same players another year into Pop's system. But the bigger piece for me, B, is that San Antonio team had supreme talent. This San Antonio team does not. They have second-tier superstars in Aldridge and DeRozan. They didn't probably have their best player, which is Murray, the point guard, who was out all of last year. He's probably their best player. So I buy into Pop being a great coach because he's done it with supreme talent, right? With Duncan and Robinson on the front line, Parker, Ginobili. I mean, he's had talent on his team, but he's also won with lesser talent. Yes. And his system doesn't change. I mean, he may tweak it, right? But the core of his system stays the same, which is his essence, right? I give Pop his props. Boy, in my mind, he can coach.
Yeah, and coming into this episode, I'm with you.
Buying it? Okay.
But when I break it down by numbers, and I start doing some of my own analytics, and I start coming up with these correlations, I start saying maybe he's not as good as we making him out to be. Maybe a lot of it is due, and I'm only relating.
I'm listening.
And I'm only relating my experiences as a coach and having a consistent group over a period of time. Like this season, I had my most success because I had a core of 6-7 players available to me from the spring all the way through the summer, where in prior years, that core number was usually 3 or 4.
Right.
And I struggled, and you really struggled to try and eke out those wins. Where this year we won a lot more by bigger margins, and I didn't have to coach as hard as I did in the past.
Because you had more consistent player engagement of the same 5.
Exactly.
But B, you probably have that across other teams that don't have the same success, which would speak to that coach's system not being strong. Yeah, you got the same team playing all the time. You don't win, right? So that would speak to the system they're playing against not being very effective, right?
Okay. So what you're saying, so I got the top 8 coaches with the top 8 teams with the same 5-player combinations, right? Clifford is number 1. Snyder was number 2.
Okay.
Billy Donovan, 58 players, 58 games with the 5-player lineup. He won 49 times.
Okay.
Budenholzer, 56 5-player lineups, 60 wins. Borrego was next with 48 5-player combinations, 39 wins. He was really the worst out of all of them in terms of performance to win.
Charlotte?
Yeah. And then you have Stotts, Kerr, and Popovich. So, I mean, these are all big names in coaching, correct? Yeah. Giving lots of props.
Not Borrego.
Not Borrego. He's the only one I'm saying that's not on there that we can evaluate based on what your question you just came up with.
Okay. Huh.
So, I mean, a lot of their success is due to the fact that they have a consistent lineup also.
Okay. And listen, that would go without saying. I mean, hell, on the job, you know, you turning over people all the time. You're not delivering high performance on a consistent basis. So that would make sense. What I guess I would want is to say, and again, these aren't necessarily starting lineups. These are the same 5 on the court at same time over the course of the season. How many times, how many wins, right? So that's an interesting metric. What I would be interested in is the baseline or the benchmark going in was how strong are this 5 versus this 5, right? Because if I have more wins with the weaker 5, that again, in my mind, speaks to better coaching, right? Calling better plays, putting their players in better positions to win and succeed. So the more we can put them in that kind of window where we can go, clearly that was a coach impacted decision and result, good or bad, right? Because all of their decisions will not result in good results. Right. Well, you clearly been put in your work this week, Coach.
Hey, man, I that crack research squad last night put in some serious work because they even were looking at the 5 players, and we listened, and I was looking at, and they were looking at those as well. But it was fun. It was a nice practice that shed some light from a coaching perspective for me as to what I'm looking for and trying to get some more analytics, how we can make our judgments on these NBA coaches, because a lot of them get it just by reputation, from my opinion.
See, and you know, folks go to all these other places to get their hoops consumption. All you need to do is come hoops upside your head, and you get analytics like that. You get real world coaching feedback, because this is a cat that's doing it in real time. So we appreciate you putting in the work to bring those analytics we'll talk about this throughout the season as more data is revealed, as more numbers are put up. I'll be interested. I'm going to take a look at this second spectrum is supposedly the, analytics place. I'm going to go there and see what they offer, see how much they want to charge me to share their analytics, because I'm sure it's not free, but you hear a lot of the NBA radio guys and NBA TV talking about second spectrum as the new place for sports data. So we'll look into that.
Okay, hopefully they have something on coaching.
Yeah, let's and if not, we will be relentless in getting them to add some, because it makes no sense. It absolutely tells you there's a disconnect in how folks see the game and where they're assigning, the impact. Because they'll talk about coaches, but then they can't prove it, right? It's eye test or who's got rings.
Yep.
So, and I guess based on that, that's why Pop is at the head of the pack, because he got the mostest. So, Coach, let me ask you, we did our Eastern Conference selections last week. We're doing the Western Conference this week. So who do you have coming out of the Northeast Division in the Western Conference?
Northwest?
Northeast. In the Northeast?
Northwest.
Northwest. That's the one with Denver?
Yes.
Yeah, I wrote down Northeast, boy.
It's all right, because I was looking at some of those teams, and I'm like, how you call that Northeast? Oklahoma?
Yeah.
How you call that Northwest? Oklahoma.
That's a whole other deal. You got two Southern teams in the West, Memphis and New Orleans. They ain't got no business being in the Western Conference.
Southwest. I'm like, I was like, wow, that's some interesting stuff. I was, this kind of forced me to look at that breakup, and I'm like, wow, it just geographically, some of it just didn't make sense.
Oh, I have the league already realigned, but it's not really going to be. It's not going to work until they bring in Seattle and Vegas.
Oh, okay.
Right? They got to go to 32 teams.
Yeah.
Got to go to 32 teams. But then we can move those two Southern teams into the East.
Okay, good.
Easy peasy, Japanese.
So coming out of the Northwest, I got Denver.
Okay. All right.
I like the job Malone did. I think the kid Porter, if he comes in and plays the way he's advertised, is just going to add to a team that was already strong. And Portland's going to be their main competition.
Okay. All right. I can see that. I'd be interested just to see Michael Porter Jr. on the court.
Yeah, me too.
He looks the part. Yeah. He's big. He got muscles. He's Hollywood. He's Hollywood ready. Yeah. So he can play it all. That's going to change the dynamic of that team. I still don't think they've got a backcourt to win a championship, but I agree. I hear you. What about in the Pacific? Should have left them for last, but hell, it's there.
I can't go against my boy Kawhi. I'm going to go with the Clippers.
That's fair. All right. And what about the Southwest?
It pains me because
it pains me.
Me and D'Antoni just never saw eye to eye, especially since Marbury was one of my favorite players of all time. And I think D'Antoni did him wrong, and I'll hold it against him forever.
All right.
But I think Houston's coming out of the Southwest.
Okay. That's not a bad call. I mean, I guess it's
I went out on a limb.
Well, yeah, right. Real stretches that you got there, my friend. Okay. All right. Well, let me give you my three, and they're pretty much the same on the first two. Denver is my pick out of the Northwest. I think they'll just get better with another year. And to your point, the addition of Michael Porter Jr. could potentially put them over the top. But I've yet to see that young man actually play a minute of basketball, so I can't. All it is rumor and innuendo as far as what he can do. So I struggle with giving him too big of a stamp, and having watched them in the playoffs struggle, right? They struggle against a San Antonio team that was not their equal. Took them to 7, and then they got bumped by Portland, right? So I'm not as big a Denver fan throughout this whole thing, but I do believe they win the Northwest. I actually have the Clips winning the Pacific also. I think it's only because I think it takes the Lakers a little bit longer to gel, where the core of the Clippers team is there. Actually, Kawhi and Paul George are the additions, right? Where the Lakers are all new. That whole team damn near is new. Yes. And I think it'll take them a little bit longer to get where they need to get. And this again goes to our hot topic. For me, Doc Rivers is worth a couple of more wins over Frank Vogel. Even though I like Vogel, Vogel's a good coach, and he's bringing defense to that Lakers team. But I think Doc is set up really well. He probably barely can sleep with the team that he gets to coach every day.
If I wasn't convinced before, last year convinced me of his ability to coach with that squad.
Yeah, he was taking a little bit on the chin there, but you got to give Doc his props.
Yes.
I actually have a little bit different theory in the Southwest, and I have San Antonio actually coming out of the Southwest.
Wow.
Just because I think they're going to be underrated and overlooked. Mm-hmm. They are going to add some youth that they haven't had. Obviously, they get Murray back, but they add Lonnie Walker, the 4th or 5th or 8th, whatever number he's got on the back end of that boy is a beast. He can shoot. He's an athlete if he stays healthy, clearly. And for me, Pop is another guy that gets a couple of extra wins versus his counterparts throughout the season. He just figures out how to get it. I'm not real enamored with that Southwest division as much as I could have picked Houston. I don't know. I think Houston's going to struggle. I think Russ and Harden are going to be fine. It's going to be like Clyde and Pearl.
Yeah.
Back in the day. But I don't see them winning the Southwest. So I've got Denver, LA, Clippers, and San Antonio Spurs winning their respective divisions. Who are your other 5 playoff teams?
I got the Warriors at 4.
Okay.
I got
bold pick. Woo!
Bold pick. I got the Blazers at 5. It's a bold pick that I got the Warriors over the Blazers.
Mm-hmm.
But I came in, actually, I have their win total at the same amount anyway.
Okay.
I have the Lakers at 6. And I'm a LeBron hater.
You're just a hater. You're a hater. You didn't see the game on Saturday, people.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about why I've given it a lot of thought, and that's going to be for a later episode.
Why you hate LeBron?
Yeah.
I've finally given it some thought to why I hate him.
Well, you made some compelling thing. You made a compelling case last week, and I was shaking my head a lot, and I was like, yeah, I see that. And then it's going to be my turn.
Then you're going to come back with your counter. Okay.
Yeah. It's not much. It's just about 1 or 2 things, but that's just the way Barry is. Coach B is a hater from back in the day.
He and his boy's a hater too?
Yes, he is.
He's a hater. Jordan lover.
Now, the last two. Good. My last two spots, I couldn't even. It was hard, man. So I got 4 teams really fighting for it, and one is a dark horse. I got the Spurs, Mavericks, and Thunder, and my dark horse is Sacramento. I think Luke Walton as a coach is maligned, and I think he's better than what they give him credit for, and I think he might do a good job with that Sacramento team. They're a nice young bunch. I like that squad. I
agree.
I like Aaron Fox and Buddy Hield. I like them. And they got some.
Indiana wear them out 2 days in India, but that's okay.
That's okay. They're still learning their chops, but I think they might have a chance to sneak in. So those last 2 spots, I can't definitively say which team I really think is going to be there. I think 4 teams are fighting for those 2 spots, and I put Dallas in there because as much as I'm a Knicks fan and Kristaps, his whole situation wasn't the best for the league, for the Knicks, for everything, for youth to see. But we talked about that previously, and I ain't mad at the power play.
Mm-hmm.
But
so did you actually pick 5 playoff teams additionally?
I picked 6, and then I picked the 6, and then 4 teams vying for the last 2 spots.
You got to come clean. You don't get to have no maybes, sir. You got to pick 5 additional playoff teams from the West.
All right, then. I'll give you number 7.
All right.
I'm gonna give you San Antonio.
Okay.
And number 8, I'm gonna give you Sacramento. I kind of.
There you see, bold. Yeah. Bold gonna push your King's chips all into the middle of the table.
Yes.
I hear you. Well, that's about as bold as me picking San Antonio to win the Southwest.
Yes, it is. That's
okay. I actually have the Lakers as my number 3 seeded team, but they don't win Pacific. All right. The Clippers and the Lakers bash people all year. Clippers end up winning the Pacific. Lakers end up as a playoff team, but in that 3rd rung with a better record than San Antonio.
Got you.
Utah is 5. They're deep. They can shoot now. At least they've got personnel to shoot. So they should not have those long stretches of offensive ineptitude that they've had. Portland at 6. I think this is just a numbers game. They got a little bit better because they got a little bit bigger, but not significantly to play in this, this West Coast conference. The Western Conference is nasty. So Portland is my 6th pick. I got Houston at 7. Again, I'm just looking forward to the James and Russ show. I can't wait for James to be taking one-legged step back 3-pointers, man. He's practicing them. This is going to be crazy. It's crazy talk, man, the stuff he's doing.
I saw 3 kids this weekend emulating it already.
Ridiculous. They're not even strong enough to shoot that shot. You know how strong you got to be to shoot a one-legged 3-point shot. Well, I got a college 3-point hoop, a backcourt in the yard. Yeah. I'm out there heaving it. When did I get so weak? That's just the college 3-point shot. That's a long shot.
And that's on 2 legs.
That's on 2. Yeah, they're not necessarily good legs. They are 2 legs. My 8th playoff team in the Western Conference is the Golden State Warriors. And I think they did some good things. I think D'Angelo Russell was a great pickup. Bob Myers be doing his thing, man. He doesn't let grass grow under his feet. The big pickup for me is Willie Cauley-Stein. They have a 7-footer that runs like a deer that's just going to be catching lobs, setting picks, blocking shots, and rebounding. And because he didn't play against the Lakers this weekend. He didn't. And you could tell because Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee was smacking them around like they stole something from them. So that was the piece you forgot, that Willie Cauley-Stein is there on the sideline. So I'm excited to see him on that Golden State team because he's just clean up on aisle 7. That's all he has to do. So those are my 8 Western Conference. 8.
Okay.
Now, let's do this. Who are your 4 Eastern Conference semifinal teams? And then who are your 4 Western Conference semifinal teams? I
got the Bucks, the Sixers.
He bringing up, he pulling up data. He typing stuff, man. Y'all, this is a high school operation here.
Yes, it is. And
a high school operation.
Coach high school, son. That's life. I'm gonna go with Bucks, Sixers, Celtics, and Nets.
Bucks, Sixers, Celtics, and Nets. Somebody write that down. Susie, write that down.
I was typing. That's what I was doing. I was typing it.
Celtics and Nets. Interesting. All right. I got Philly and Milwaukee. No question about that. I got Brooklyn. And I got Indiana.
Oh.
Yeah. And Indiana's my 8th team.
I know.
Who you got out of the West? Then it's easy in the East. I ain't pick anybody in the East. You just throw some chicken bones up in the air after Philly and Milwaukee, and who knows may fall off the sky.
I got the Clippers, Nuggets, Blazers, and Lakers.
Ooh, okay. Very nice. I got the Clips, I got the Lakers, I got the Jazz, and I got the Blazers. How all that's going to work, I don't know.
Well, when you posed it, I started trying to do the brackets with the seeding, and I'm like, nah, let me just pick 4 teams.
That's exactly right. You will be analysis by paralysis, trying to try to do matchups from 8 down to 2. So exam.
So what were your final 4 again?
My final 4 in the West?
Yeah.
LA.
Uh-huh.
Utah, Portland.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. You really like that Jazz squad, don't you?
I like this, and as
we're gonna come back to that.
as a developed team, because listen, Quinn Snyder's proven he can coach because he's had a team make the playoffs that have not had the same level of talent as other teams. I mean, you look at that team, their point guard was who?
Rubio.
Ricky Rubio. Right. In a point guard laden league. That was their point guard. Their point guard is now Mike Conley. Yeah. That's a serious step up. That's not a minor step up. That's a serious step up. Should Mike stay healthy? That's Mike's issue, right? He's small. He's fragile.
Mm-hmm.
But add Bogdanovich as a shooter, you know, they're set up to be better than they've ever been, you know? So we'll see. I mean, listen, I ain't know. I've actually been to Utah. I don't know about you.
I've never been to Utah.
That was part of my region and when I was in California, baby. I used to go to Vegas one week and then Salt Lake the next. You talk about blow your mind. That's a serious mind-blowing trip.
They said if you didn't go to Utah when Malone and Stockton was there, don't bother going.
Well, I wasn't. They were before my time, but it's an interesting little city, Salt Lake. Yeah. But nice people, very clean city, very. So those are my 4 and 4 from each side. You're 4 and 4 from each side. So let me ask you, who you got coming out of who's going to your Eastern Conference Finals?
I got the Bucks and the Nets.
Bucks and the Nets? What? Wow.
They're playing for the conference title.
You just threw Philly straight under a double-decker, huh?
Yeah, you know why? Because I really think KD's coming back by the end of the season.
Interesting. Okay. Huh.
But he's not going to be enough to get past the Bucks. He'll be enough to get past the Sixers, but not the Bucks.
Interesting. Okay. All right. I got Philly and Milwaukee coming out of the East. I'm going chalk, baby. I struggle to try to create the scenario. Yours is realistic. If KD did come back with some real time, I could see that happening. But you know what? I don't see that happening. I'm counting on Victor Oladipo's return, and him and Malcolm Brogdon going to be nasty, McNasty, baby. Serious business. And you know who looks good on that team? That we forgot, T.J. Warren as the small for boy. That's a scoring machine. That boy, he can't do nothing else, but he can score.
We had this discussion in our last episode.
I don't know. I don't remember. You know what? My mind is temporary. I forgot what we were just talking about. So I'm good.
I was extolling Indiana's virtues when I gave you the list last time.
Okay. Well, I watched them a little bit. They didn't look too bad. All right, so you got Milwaukee and Brooklyn.
Yes.
Milwaukee coming out of the East, it sounds like for you. You kind of made that revelation. All right. I have Philly, Milwaukee, and I got Philly coming out of the East. Okay. I got a Philly team coming out of the East. Joel Embiid down 25 pounds, looking svelte. They don't have to do as much load management. You know, again, all of these picks are all contingent on health, as any sports prediction is. But I think a healthy Philly team wins the East. Who you got coming out of the West as your semifinalists or your two finals teams in the West?
I went with what I'd like to see. This is the fan, so I'm going to be a fan right now in the West. I would like to see the Blazers playing the Nuggets with the Blazers coming out.
What fans want to see the Blazers playing the Nuggets other than the ones in Colorado and Oregon?
The true fans that understand the beauty of Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum.
Originally, I was joking. I think maybe you was dabbling in that crack this weekend, boy. The Denver Nuggets and the Portland Trail Blazers.
Yes. I think it's time for just some fresh blood. I'm tired of seeing
what you hope for. This is you just throwing a little hope for.
I'm just throwing you my fan pick. I want the Blazers. I like them.
You don't have either one of the LA teams in the Western Conference Finals. No. You really stepping out there, aren't you? You feeling just as an angry Knicks fan, y'all. That's all. That's just an angry.
Think of hating.
That's just a mean, mad Knicks fan, people. I'm actually going the exact opposite. I'm going all chalk again. I'm going LA in the finals.
All right. Which one you got winning?
Clippers.
All right.
Got the Clippers winning it against Philly. That's a nice finals right there.
That should be
Sixers, Clippers.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We'll wait till the very end of the show to reveal who we got winning it all. Right? Right? Because you got the Bucks and the Nuggets.
And the Blazers. We're going back to the 70s, baby. That's a 70s final.
You're going to Bill Walton headband.
Yes.
Don't make me have that flashback. Don't lose it. Don't make me lose it.
Going back to the 70s.
I hate you, Blazers.
Milwaukee with the Kareem.
It was all the setup fight. Maurice Lucas Because that changed the whole dynamic of that series. When that fake fight happened, everybody talking about Maurice Lucas, this tough guy. Daryl should have grabbed him by his neck and popped his head right off.
He would have too.
He would have.
Ain't no
but
way.
He was too busy on Love Trying.
May he rest in peace. I love
Daryl. Chocolate Thunder, God bless you. He would listen. He was a brand before people even knew what a brand was.
Oh, yes, he was, man. I loved him, man.
I love Chocolate Thunder.
One of my favorite all-time NBA personalities.
Physical specimen, man. He was Shaquille O'Neal before Shaquille O'Neal.
Yes.
Right? A big man with the feet of a ballerina.
Yes.
Man. Something else. So, Coach, it's your time, baby.
It's time for Coach B's Corner.
What you got for us today, Coach B's Corner?
I got coaching and being humble, and you referred to me a couple times as our resident expert. I'm our coach. I'm our resident coach, keeping it humble. I go to 3 clinics every year at least, trying to learn my craft, hone my craft, pick brains, and also just to outright steal stuff from other coaches. That's what we do.
It's borrowing. That's not stealing.
Nah, we all steal, and they say it. They up there talking. I heard Stan Van Gundy. I was there 3 weeks ago at the USA Basketball Youth Development camp that they have in New York, and he said, all coaches steal from other coaches, drills, plays. That's what we do. And I'm like, he ain't never lied, because I'm up there with my video camera like, keep it. What's that? Oh, I like that one. And it's just learning our craft. And so part of that is also when you're sitting in the stands and you're watching a showcase and you're watching other coaches coach and what instructions they're yelling to players. Do you find it to be constructive, benign, or destructive? You understand what I'm saying? I sat there, high school coach, South Jersey, not going to name any names, public school. He sat up there. I heard, and I try to just track words that they're yelling at their players. So on defense, I kept hearing him, get there, get there, get there, get there. And I'm trying to put myself in the mind of a player on the court who's going to be trying to listen to his coach for instruction. And what am I getting out of him saying, get there? And it was hard for me to understand what he was trying to relate to his players. He had a 2-3 zone in high school and yelling, get there at his players. I'm like, first of all, why aren't you playing man-to-man? Teaching these young players the principles of straight-up defense. But you're stuck in a zone and you're just yelling, get there, get there. You're not yelling to your weak side guard to take away the middle, which you should be doing because they were eating them up at the middle. They were dropping it into the high post. Big man was turning, he hit 3 straight jump shots. And all I hear him saying is, get there, get there, get there.
But not sure who that was directed to.
Yeah. And what get there to take away what? You know what I'm saying? It was very perplexing. I was like, wow. And this is a high school coach of a public school in South Jersey. Offensively, he has a very athletic team. So they were causing turnovers and they wanted to run. And all he kept telling them, hold it, make good decisions. So I'm like, all right, well, what offensive scheme is that? I mean, it's not even a read and react 5 out. You're not even doing a 4 out, 1 in, which is like basic high school offense. You want to teach your kids to always pass, cut, and then you fill the open spot on the perimeter. He wasn't even doing that, or even a basic, let me put my big in the high post, maybe run a guard off of him, with a screen, pick and roll, pick and pop, just a basic offense. None of that. All he kept saying was, so they were getting turnovers. They had they had numbers. Hold it. Give it to the number 2. And then he looked at him and go, make good decisions. And I'm like, what instructions is? No wonder a lot of these kids don't know. They do what they want because they're not sure of the instructions that they're getting. What I want to say to coaches is, when you're yelling at a player, don't just yell for the sake of yelling. You have to be more constructive as to tell them where to be and why you want to take it away. And develop a basic scheme. Have a plan. Just don't go in there, give the kid the ball and say, go make decisions. And not only that, he was short a player. I lent him one of my players, and he was, who asked for this player? I was like, man, I'll never let one of my kids play for you ever again. And it was just me observing another coach from the stands. And I don't know how many other people there really understood that whole dynamic of what was going on. But I left there with saying that coach really needs some development. Like, I'm not saying I know what I'm doing and I'm the best coach, I'm the greatest coach, I'm an expert. No, because I go and I try to listen and I try to learn. And I'm listening to Hall of Fame coaches, Bob Hurley. He was the first speaker at that camp I went to.
Nice.
Mike Jones, DeMatha High School. I've listened to Ron Niclario. Those that don't know Ron Niclario, he's the all-time winningest coach in the Public School Athletic League of the state of New York, Cardozo High School. And I go to him, and I have an open invite to go attend his practice. I'm going to take him up on that. And for them to see some coaches just step on the court. I'm not a coach. I've been watching basketball my whole life. I played when I was a kid. Man, 20 years ago, I had that same mentality. It's a humbling profession. You really have to put in your time, man. And that's all I got to say to all you future coaches out there. Put in the time, learn your craft. Don't ever feel you know it all. There's always something. Pick brains. Find out. Attend other practices. Invite them to your practices. Have people come to see you. It's amazing. I've been blessed and had some good players that I've had college coaches come into my practice to see them. And he's talking to me about the kid and picking my brain about the kid and the player. And I'm actually picking his brain about his practices. What did he think about mine? What could I have done better? You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And that's all I would say about my coaches going into today, just based on my experience this weekend. Man, just if you're going to yell some instructions, yell something constructive, at least try to take away something that the other team is doing effectively.
Folks, that's the practical, applicable knowledge from Coach B and his corner. It's strange these many years later we're having the same conversations about some things, but they are what they are.
It's time for E's Rap.
E's Rap today is on coaching also, and we like to stick on the hot topic. I'm going to take the approach from a leadership standpoint because that's really the only way that I see coaching. I swim in that leadership space in my non-hoops upside your head life. And one of the things that I've kind of boiled down leadership to in any facet is talent development. If you think about yourself as a parent, your number one job is talent development. People may go, oh, that's very clinical. Look at your child. But no, that's my job. My job is to develop their talent, put them in the best position to win. That's my job as a manager, leader on the job at work. That's my job as a coach on the court, right? So I try to apply my own leadership principles to what an NBA coach should be doing. I try to, look at them through that lens, that frame. And one of my key leadership principles is the set perspective. It's strategy development, execution effectiveness, and talent management, with the strategy development and the talent management being the keys. The most important two pieces that a coach does is deliver to their charges, their team, in this instance, a strategy for how we are going to win, how we're going to deliver high performance as a team. We're going to press full court, right? We're going to go to the basket with an inside-out offense, right? Whatever that may be. And then the development of your talent to that strategy, right? Because if you say we're going to be a press full court team, what must you be as a team? Be in shape. You must be in tip-top physical shape. So as a coach, are you marrying your strategy with your talent development needs? Because if you told that team, boys and girls, or this is a boys team, we are going to press full court from corner to corner and end to end, then that team must be in shape. So there is the strategy, there is the talent development piece. If those two things are married, then execution effectiveness will take care of itself. We will be able to execute a fast break pressing strategy because we're in shape to do it. Now, there are other things that go into how you press, effectively pressing, right? That's the details of the coach's work. But without that set perspective, without having a firm strategy to coach the team on, to talk the team through why we're doing things, right? To say, hey, listen, we are running all the time because at the end of the day, at the end of the game, when you're on the foul line, you need your legs to make those foul shots. Because, gentlemen, just like football, you miss your field goals and your extra points, you miss your free throws, you will lose. I know I'm moving into a different rant, but that's part of coaching. Bad free throw teams, in my mind, are being coached badly. It's not a priority by that coach, and in turn, that team is leaving points on the board and on the court, and they're losing games at the end of games. That's a fact. There will be more games lost because of bad free throw shooting than anything else in the NBA this year. Plain and simple. It's not sexy, so we don't spend enough time talking about it. But B, you were there. I made 52 in a row in practice one time because those are free. They're free throws. But this is a coaching discussion. So coaches, there are certain things that you must do to put your team in position to succeed. Have a sound strategy and believe in your strategy. I don't care whether it's sexy or not, but believe in your strategy so you can coach to it and build your talent to that strategy. If you have a strategy to press and you've got a slow team, you've got a bad strategy matched with your talent. So rethink your strategy or go get new talent. Those are really your only options. But until then, you're going to be wondering why you keep losing, right? And it's not an execution situation. Every answer is not, we need to execute better. Sometimes, coaches, you need to change your strategy. You need to evolve what you're trying to do. Other times, you need to look at yourself and look at your team and go, this is not the team that's going to win the championship. I need to make some personnel changes. No different than on the job, right? You will always have some level of underperformance somewhere. How do you fix it? You can't always make them capable. Sometimes you have to make them gone and replace them with new talent. So I say all this to say, coaches, have a strategy. Get your talent aligned with your strategy. Get everybody committed, right? Committed to the strategy, right? I don't care whether you like it or not. I need you to walk out of this huddle committed to delivering the plan, right? But if you're building a good strategy and you've got good talent, execution effectiveness typically takes care of itself because execution effectiveness is solely the delivery of the strategy on time. That's it. That's my wrap today, folks.
I love it. I love it. Conditioning, free throws, those are keys, and you have to preach them, man. I love it.
I almost sound like a coach, but you know what? They ain't driving me crazy no more.
You are, coach. You are, coach.
All right, we got one more thing to do as we bring this last preseason episode to a close, because the next time you hear us, it's going to be live, y'all. Yes. We going to tip it up for real, for real.
Yes,
but
sir.
Coach, who you got winning the 2019-2020 NBA championship?
I think the Greek Freak is finally going to get his. Not finally, because he ain't been waiting that long, but I think he's going to break through.
Wow.
He's breaking through.
Milwaukee Bucks bringing a championship back since Lou Alcindor was playing basketball.
Yes, sir.
I'm assuming y'all know who Lou Alcindor is. That would be Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but some of y'all young enough that y'all won't know who that is.
Can't assume that.
They'd be like, Sharif Abdul-Rahim? Yeah, I know who that. No, different guy. His sister was a baller. That's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
I actually am going so far out on a limb, it's ridiculous. I'm going to take the Philadelphia 76ers to win the 2019-2020 NBA championship. Though you probably won't find me rooting for them too much, because I can take this Sixer team or leave it. You know, I'm a Julius Erving Sixer guy. But I think given the addition of Josh Richardson at the guard spot, long, can shoot, can defend, Al Horford as that big man to spell Joel Embiid. They don't even lose much when Joel sits and Al moves to center. Brett Brown has all of the talent he needs to win. We'll see if his strategy as a leader is enough to get him over the hump. You know, he's a Popovich guy. He comes from that Popovich tree. So, you know, and they all get mad respect. But it's kind of like that Belichick tree. I ain't seen none of y'all win nothing yet. So, until you do, it's all just talk.
Borrego's from the Popovich tree also.
Right. Borregos there's a bunch of like there's 5. Yeah. And Bud has probably done the best job because he's done it in 2 places now, Atlanta and Milwaukee.
Yeah.
But the difference between being a good coach that wins and a championship coach is fairly significant, given we only have 6 coaches with rings in the league. So that says a lot. Coach, I'm so excited that we got this thing going. You know, we went back and forth, but we're into it now.
Yeah, we are.
I appreciate all the work you did on bringing us some analytics on the coaching side of the game. Again, folks, the next time you hear us, we will be in season and getting it going. So for Coach B, this is E, and this is Hoops Upside Your Head. Peace.